Well, how things have suddenly turned against the gaming urinalists. We have an article here from Insider Gaming talking about how supposedly Bobby Kotick files a defamation lawsuit against media outlets over discrimination comments. Now, apparently, the media outlets that are being named in this discrimination lawsuit are the same media outlets that certain people out there try to claim have all these checks and balances to avoid things like this. How they have corporate that check every single article before they go out to ensure legality. They have all this nonsense that supposedly is supposed to protect them because they only tell the truth. Well, apparently that's not the case, and Bobby Kotick is filing a lawsuit against some of your favorite gaming websites. So let's get to this article, guys, from Insider Gaming. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, Bobby Kotick is not exactly somebody that we celebrate, okay? Let's be real here. We can celebrate the lawsuit just because we hate the gaming journalist websites, but I'm not going to celebrate the person Bobby Kotick. Let's be honest with you. Like, Bobby Kotick is definitely one of those CEOs that is not exactly very liked in the gaming industry. He has a reputation of obviously corporate greed, and on top of that, making some of the worst decisions in gaming recently, especially. But Bobby Kotick, apparently, the former CEO of Activision Blizzard, has filed a lawsuit in Delaware against Geo Media, naming Kotaku and Gizmodo specifically. The suit complains that both outlets attempted to smear Kotick by going out of their way to besmirch his name by mentioning false, withdrawn allegations of discrimination and workplace harassment. Now, again, guys, I think it's hilarious because Kotaku and Gizmodo, but more so Kotaku than anything. You know, that's a company that, again, certain people like to say that they have all these checks and balances, that they don't do things like this, that Kotaku could never lie, all this kind of nonsense, right? And yet, here they are getting sued for exactly that same exact thing. I just find it ironic because there's also another lawsuit going on right now from a former Kotaku journalist that thinks that they were being defamed for almost the same exact reasons, except they were caught lying. Whereas in this situation, we don't know what's going to happen yet. It was claimed that Kotick that articles were penned with the malicious purposes of causing further harm to his name, which was at the time already considerably tarnished. Seeking damages, the Delaware suit filed by Bobby Kotick is pretty basic on the surface, but details of the complaint were obtained and published by Courthouse News Services on March 13. The complaint from Kotick reads as the following. Neither article had anything to do with Activision. Both were about rumors that Kotick was interested in buying TikTok. Yet Kotaku and Gizmodo went out of their way to include withdrawn false allegations relating to workplace issues, which Geo Media knew had been conclusively disproven by numerous investigations, purely for the malicious purposes of causing further harm to Kotick. I don't really think it was about causing further harm. I think it was about clickbait, really. I think it was about trying to get people to click the article, or if they did click it, trying to get people to continue to read it by throwing in those little jabs. You know, they do this with everybody. If you guys are unaware, they did this with Black Myth Wukong too. Every time they talked about Black Myth Wukong, they would pretend they were talking about the game, and then some point during the article, usually within the first or second paragraph, they're talking about the sexual harassment allegations or the misogyny allegations against the company that made Black Myth Wukong, right? And they always did this with every single article. It didn't matter what they were talking about. If Black Myth Wukong was a subject, they were going to bring up the sexual assault harassment allegations that were made against the company so many years ago that were reportedly disproven, but not, you know, it doesn't matter. They're still going to bring it up anyway because that's what Kotaku does. That's what Gizmodo does. That's what Geo Media as a whole and their journalists seem to do. Then it says the articles in questions were reports published by Kotaku and Gizmodo about the claim that Bobby Kotick was part of a cabal looking to acquire TikTok in the United States. For reference, I also cover those claims, but I neglected to insult the man or bring up his troubled past at Activision Blizzard, aside from mentioning what employees were saying about him on social media. Exactly. I mean, again, you could talk about what he's doing without necessarily insulting the guy or being false about it or inaccurate. Like you could do that. And it's clear that some people are able to do that and some people can't. And it seems like that is a consistent thing with companies like Kotaku. but that's probably why I'm not being sued. Courthouse News Services noted that Kotaku and Gizmodo updated their articles to remove more negative terminology, but Kodak insists that, as a general rule, they're still mischaracterizing him and he's seeking damages. Bro, this is going to be a wild one. And again, I do find this a bit ironic, considering the lawsuit that's happening right now for the same exact thing, defamation, with Alyssa Mercante and Smash JT. But I just find it hilarious because Bobby Kotick, of all people, leading the charge against Kotaku is not something that I had on my 2025 bingo card. So if you look here at the article from the Courthouse News Services, it has the same exact thing. Former Activision Blizzard CEO sues over news articles accusing him of workplace harassment, discrimination, etc. Robert Kotick accused the media company of knowingly lying about since-dismissed workplace sexual harassment and discrimination charges. During Kotick's tenure as CEO, Activision Blizzard faced immense scrutiny in 2021 when the California Civil Rights Department began investigating the company for potential workplace sexual harassment and discrimination. By December 23, however, Activision Blizzard and the department settled for $54 million. The settlement signed by both parties state that no court or any independent investigation has substantiated any allegations of either systemic sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard or that the company's senior executives ignored, condoned, or tolerated a culture of systemic harassment, retaliation, or discrimination. So a lot of people are going to take that as they were guilty. They knew they were guilty and they were paying them off. That's how a lot of people are going to take that, obviously. And by making them pay it off, they agreed to essentially absolve the company of any sin. Not necessarily that they didn't do anything, but that quite simply they just got paid for silence. That's how a lot of people are going to view that. Despite this, Kotick noted that Geo Media published 2 articles on March 11, 24, one on video game website Kotaku and one in science and tech outlet Gizmodo, about Kotick that repeated the since-dismissed claims of widespread workplace misconduct without ever mentioning they had been dismissed. Well, that's because that's going to be very bad for their clickbait, right? That's going to be very bad to tell the truth about whether or not something got dismissed or not. They don't care, man. This is why I keep telling people, like, Kotaku seems to not care about being as open in context as possible. And they can't say that they didn't know because they looked at the same public record that told them that in the first place. If you knew about the sexual harassment claims, then you should know about the dismissal, because I'm pretty sure as a news outlet, you're probably following the story. So you really are going to have a hard time convincing people that you didn't know about the dismissal. You must have known. Neither article had anything to do with Activision, Kotick says in the complaint. Both were rumors that Kotick was interesting. Wait, we read this already. Then it says that according to Kotick in the complaint filed Tuesday, he and his representatives repeatedly wrote to Geo Media demanding corrections to the articles, including removal of a headline that originally called Kotick a disgraced CEO and a note that the California Civil Rights Department voluntarily withdrew its claims. Gizmodo subsequently removed the word disgrace from its headline, and both publications revised their articles with details of the settlement. Still, Kotick claims the articles continue to mischaracterize the agreement. Kotick seeks damages to be determined at trial. Now, again, I don't know what he's suing for. I don't know how much he's suing for, but I gotta imagine it's probably going to be a lot of money. And Geo Media, this is probably going to be the first of many potential lawsuits that they're going to have to face, because let's be real, they don't exactly have a great, hold on their journalists. I feel like that's pretty obvious at this point. They've showcased that, unfortunately, Geo Media seems to not really care about whether their journalists lie or not. All they care about is whether or not they bring them in clicks. And at this point, the only way they really bring them in clicks, because nobody cares about their websites otherwise, is by doing news that people are going to deem as, inflammatory. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.